Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Burnout Podcast. My name is Skip O, and I'd like to talk to you about our sponsor today, Throttle and Thrive. You can go to throttleandthrive.com and check out what they got to offer. It's a 6-bed facility for men. In the future, they're working on one for women, but Siobhan is the CEO. Give her a call. Check out the place, do a virtual meeting, or go there, visit if you're there in California. Remember, that's throttleandthrive.com. Today, I'd like to welcome a friend and also just a fellow survivor of this world with a little bit of help from our other friends. Warren Hubbell, how you doing today?
Doing great, Skip. Glad to be here.
Good. Well, me and Warren was talking earlier today, and we are just kind of talking about the things that he's done. You know, I met Warren a year ago or two. I can't remember how long it's been now. I'm old, and I can't remember like I used to.
It was within the last 1 to 2 years. You're right.
Yeah, I tell you, I don't know about other first responders or people, but I went in a room full of people I hadn't met, and I kind of felt a little inferior. Not that that's just who I am. That's how I feel until I get to know somebody. And then I got to know Warren. We worked on a couple projects, one with the homeless behind the fire station here in Anderson, Indiana. And then another project just with a woman that's had a heart transplant and needed some work down their house. And Warren, I know when you say you're going to do something, you do it. You suit up and show up. And just like today, we had lunch together. I said, hey, let's do a podcast today. And guess what? You're on the podcast today.
Don't make eye contact with Skip. That's what I say.
I know a lot of people say they dodge my phone calls, but one thing, we talk to first responders. We talk to friends of first responders, therapists, doctors, and there's first responders to other countries. You know, a lot of countries, third world countries, are hurting, and they need a message of hope. They need a message of life, whether you bring them clothing or you bring them water. But Warren, would you tell the people just a little bit of background about yourself, whether you're married, not married, kids, and all that stuff, and then we'll lead into the questions of what you do.
Sure. I am married. Shelley's my lovely wife. We have 4 children and 3 grandchildren. One of them's young, and I almost forget him all the time, but we have 3 grandchildren now. They all live in this area, so we still get to enjoy family and be around family. Shelley and I spend a lot of time involved with our church. We also do what's called short-term missions, or go teams, we call them, primarily in the southeastern part of Africa. There's 4 countries down there: South Africa, Zimbabwe, Ethiopia, and Zambia. And I've served in all of those one time or the other.
Warren, how long have you been doing that? Did you say that already?
No, I didn't. Skip, I went on my first missions trip about 12 years ago. I've got a servant's heart, and I've always just said yes to a lot of things, done a lot of different things. And I went on a trip about 12 years ago, and then a couple of years after that, really working through what that looks like and feeling like I needed to do that more. I ended up with an organization called Horizon International, and they focus on orphans through the AIDS pandemic. And sponsorships and these go teams are their primary function. I've lost track now. I've probably been on 15 to 18, a couple of them long-term trips over there to Africa. A lot of times I do it with Shelley. There's been a few times I've gone with teams that Shelley was not involved.
Sure. Well, we talk a lot about, police, fire. We go there when there's destruction. We go there when there's somebody needs help, or military. They go there, go to other countries and protect us, and you see a lot of different things. When you go there, what exactly, could you describe it to people that's never been to Africa or a third world country, kind of describe the housing, their living conditions, just so we can get an idea of what you're seeing?
Sure. When I first went, I did some team building with a mentor of mine that tried to help prepare me for that, but the pictures just don't do justice. I had seen pictures of Kenya and the wild animals and things like that, and that's what I thought all of Africa was like. there are people that are living in facilities, buildings, I don't know what to call them, maybe 10 feet by 10 feet. And sometimes there's 5, 6, 7 people living in a facility like that. There are some countries where there is liquid running down the dirt road that I'm not sure if it's water or sewage or what it is. The orphans that we focus on, they are treated awfully. They are almost like it's their fault that they are orphans. They don't get to go to school. They get picked on by the other kids. That's one of the main reasons that we try to get them sponsored. When they get sponsored monthly, they can go to school. They get a meal, at least one meal a day. They live off the land over there. So if there's a drought or things aren't well, they don't eat very well. You are a first responder yourself. I don't know that I've ever seen a fire station or a fireman while I've been over there. I've seen a few police officers. Usually they're along the side of the road stopping you, what we call support raising. They tell you something's wrong with your vehicle and you pay $20 and you get to go on or whatever. I don't ever see them protecting anybody. And it's really strange, Skip, because it's almost like a bad movie. The 30 to 50-year-old generation is just gone. It was wiped out by AIDS. And Bono made that very popular several years back, and everybody got all excited and got involved. And you don't hear about it anymore, but it is still a pandemic. There are more kids dying each year or their parents dying from AIDS than there ever was. I've heard a statistic that every 15 minutes, a child or someone in Africa gets AIDS or tuberculosis or something, and they just don't have the resources to get through that.
Well, and I tell you, it's hard to, we get over here and we live in our little box sometimes, and there's not, everybody's not prone to go on mission trips or be a fireman or policeman or see that destruction. When somebody, and I'm not saying people are unfeeling, but they don't think. They don't think, or they're not involved. They say, we need to help our people here instead of going all the way over the borders. What would your answer be to that?
Well, I have talked to a lot of people that said they felt that way or they didn't know where to go, and there is no wrong place to go. As you mentioned earlier, we helped the homeless for a while behind the fire station until they were moved and displaced. There's need all over the world. So what I say is wherever you feel called, and for me, it was a spiritual thing. It was God that called me in that direction. And I don't just serve in Africa. I serve while I'm here also. So it's not either or is what I would tell them. Serve here. And if you feel called, go serve wherever else is too. There's need everywhere.
Wow, I tell you what, that's a very simple answer for a complicated question sometimes, but, be a servant everywhere you are. And I think that's, for me as a first responder, being a servant is what we do on a job. But after the job, I think that there's a healing there from the things that we've seen years ago through our jobs. And you come on, you do a servant, and somewhere there's a healing in that. But you going over there, you and Shelly and your team going over there, I think that's like being a first responder in my book, because there's suffering, there's hurting, there's pain, and sending money's good, and sponsoring a child is great. But Greg Ellis told me a long time ago, Greg was paralyzed from the neck down. I said, after Haiti's earthquake, I was feeling this urge to go over there, and I was like, I don't want to go over there. And I told Greg, he lived next door, I said, Greg, maybe I just need to send money. And he smiled at me and moved it over. He said, Skip, a child can't feel the warmth of the human body by just sending money.
No.
But anyway, for, the stuff that you do being in Africa and the stuff that you're going through today, and you talked about your spirituality. Have you always believed in God or something going on, something's up there?
Yes, I have. I was raised, my grandmother was a Southern Baptist, so I went to church until I was 7 years old. My family did not attend church. I always believed in God. God was more like a pill bottle to me. I reached out when I needed something or wanted something, but my whole life I felt like I've just had conversations with God. And at about 20 years old, I rededicated my life to God. And about 12 years ago, I told you I really got involved in missions. And I look back now and I think I played church and I was religious. Now I don't call myself religious. You've mentioned before, first responders are servants, and to me, that's what we're here for. To learn and to serve others is what we're supposed to do, wherever that is.
Sure. And, in our line of work, we see a lot of things. A lot of guys, including me, I used to be an atheist, didn't want to believe in God, or because I was too afraid, or I just spit on the ground because, in my view back then, I'm doing CPR on a little baby that died. And you want to talk to me, everything happens, God, but doesn't happen by mistake. And I heard somebody say that before.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, when you say that to me, then that's my defense coming up. My fear's coming out. Oh, so this little baby needed to die. This needed to happen. Why are those kids in Africa like that? Why is there, that's a whole lot of questions that me as a first responder and people that don't believe in anything will come back at that way. Is there an answer that you can give those people, or how you felt about that?
Yeah, and I've wrestled with that, and I still wrestle with that. You've talked, and I've been involved in events that you've gone to with first responders and heard about some of the things that they're trying to process through. It's the same thing when I go over there. I see a child that is mistreated, that's an orphan, and has no other resource and no one to take care of them, that might be living on the street or whatever. And it's hard to go, God, why are you allowing this to happen? And the simplest, again, sometimes it's hard, but it's easy. It's free will is the word I come back to. If we were robots and everything was perfect, I wouldn't want that. And we live in an evil world where bad things happen. And that's why it's important, I think, for people like Shelley and myself and many, many other people that serve here, serve in other countries, first responders here that go out and take care of people. You don't do it for a paycheck. You don't do it because you want to get an award back. You just want to take care of people and you want to serve people. So I kind of danced around that answer a little bit, but it's very simple to me. It's just free will. There's evil in this world, unfortunately. And I'm going to do my little part to try to make that better for someone.
No, I understand what you're saying. For me, I don't understand why those things happen, or I don't understand why bad things happen to good people and good things happen to so-called bad people.
Right.
What I got a part in this world to play, and I didn't know what my part was for a long time. I thought it was to drink a lot of alcohol, to have a lot of sex, just to do all those worldly things, if you want to call them that. It took a lot of things happening in my life to put me in a state of willingness to believe in something other than nothing. Something's there. I just didn't know what it was. And I took people like yourself guided me in kindergarten spirituality to get to the point where I could understand the love of a higher power, or which I call God now. And a lot of first responders are out there, or a lot of people that are suffering are out there. They said, you're telling me about this love of this God, this unconditional God, while you're sitting in this warm church. Mm-hmm. But for you and your team, you go out in the world and you go out where it's bad and you make a difference. And I think being that kind of first responder is very, very important. You're answering a prayer. And that's what I say. The prayers are being answered when you get on that plane, you fly that 20 plus hours and do that, get out of your comfort zone big time and go there to answer prayers. And I think that's what we do. We try to fill the need of somebody, whether it's clothing or whether it's water. That's what we're supposed to do as human beings, not because we're Americans. I think what I think now, there's no borders for me personally, and there's no language barriers. It doesn't matter what color your skin are, who you go to bed with. I'm going to love somebody where they're at. And I think you're a prime example. You and Shelley, Tom, and David, all you guys, and Matt and Connie that I know that do that. You love people where they're at.
And that's true. This will come out maybe like a political statement, but make America great. And no disrespect for either side of the aisle that people's on. But after being in other countries and stuff, I'm like you. There are no borders. Everyone is God's child. So I don't want America to not be great, but if it's great, I want it to go help other people is what I want it to do. So I struggle sometimes with that. And there's people that I don't agree with all the time. There's different denominations of churches. And what I've learned, Skip, is I am not going to argue with people about things anymore that don't matter, because I'm never going to win somebody over by telling them they're wrong for rooting for the wrong team or wearing the wrong clothes or this political party or that political party. As you just said it, I'm going to love other people is what I'm going to do. And I'm human. I don't always love people like I should. I stumble, I fall. But that God that we talked about gave his only son for us. He loved us that much. So I'll get back up, pick myself up by my bootstraps, and go on and try to love the next person better is what I'll try to do.
That's great, man. And I know some people out there might not believe it a certain way, but like what I found out for me, if I'm open-minded, and I used to think people are trying to trick me to believe in God and stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's not what it was. They're just sharing what they believed in and stuff. And that's like, when you're a first responder, we're talking about fires, or your police officer, we're talking about different calls we have. We're just sharing their experience. And that's what Warren's on here, to share his experience and always to be a servant. And I believe being the first responder in Africa is badly needed over there, just like it is around a lot of world. So I see a lot of things. Let's not spend no money over here. Let's not do it over here. What about here? I get it. I understand. But at the end of the day, where I'm called to go is where I'm going to do the work. What's that saying? Mm-hmm. It says, God don't qualify to call, he qualifies to call. Is that saying?
Yeah, I'll never say that right, but I know what he'll qualify us is what he'll do. And sure. We think we're not worthy. And when we go over there, people, and I'm a prime example, we do a lot of vacation Bible schools. That was never my thing over here. I'm the one that was running around. I'm like you, Skip. I'm playing with the kids, getting them in trouble. I'm messing around when I should be paying attention or whatever. But what I've learned is just showing up. And you mentioned it early, that warm blanket, the hurricane that come through and wiped out the Carolinas and Tennessee and all down through there. And you see all these pictures of these kids just wrapped up and displaced, and somebody's loving on them. That matters. That matters a lot when sure. People take that time right there. And it's all about, this mission or serving other people. We have a saying that it's more, it's not a cruise ship. It's more of a battleship. It's not going to be perfect when you're out there in the elements helping each other. That you're running in, your job was to run into burning buildings and wrecks on the highways and different things like that. It was never luxury and stuff. So that's one thing to keep in mind when you become a servant. It's not about you. It's about serving that other person.
That's right. Now, do you guys, when you go over there, do you do any kind of debriefing afterwards, or do you have an accountability partner where you're with somebody, so if it gets overwhelming that you're able to offload some things to people?
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that drew me to Horizon. And there's some people that don't take advantage of that. I've been around you where you've offered some help to some other people. Sometimes they'll accept it. Sometimes they won't. But we know that's important because it's a completely different culture. You come back and sometimes you're angry. You mentioned that earlier. You're in a fire and maybe someone loses their life or loses their whole arm. It's hard not to get upset sometimes, and we need help processing through that. And Horizon has done and built a good foundation to be able to do that and talk through those kind of things with people. I still process after all the trips I've been on. I come back and have to be careful because I get mad. One of my friends that's got a brand new car and every toy he wants is complaining because traffic wasn't moving fast enough. And I thought, man, I just came back from watching kids maybe not getting to eat each day. And you're worried about whether traffic moved as fast as you want it to go, or they got your ketchup on your hamburger at the drive-up window or whatever. So I need help processing through that kind of stuff also.
Sure. Well, I know, you go there, you do what you need to do there, then you come back home, and then you expect everything here. You appreciate things more here. But sometimes, I don't know about you, I can take things for granted. Um, can you relate to any of that?
Absolutely. Again, it's like tension. It's like if you have two poles and there's a string there, and one of the poles goes a little bit this way, and there's a ball in the middle of that. It's just like there's tension going back and forth, pulling back and forth, and that's what it's like. I can take things for granted. I've got kind of a strange way to look at things sometimes when I get like that. If I start feeling sorry for myself or having my own little pity party, I think of some of the things that I've seen over there in those other countries. The homeless that we visited behind the police station that was back there, they would love to have some of the problems that I have and that I deal with. So I draw on those things sometimes to help me through those situations.
Sure. You know, yeah, just like, we go on calls, life can change on a dime, whether it's unfortunately losing a loved one, or whether it's, a fire happening or a business burning up and people lose their jobs. We got to remember to savor those moments and be grateful for what we got, not what we don't have. Are you where you want to be at today in your life?
Um, I would say no to give you a black and white answer, because I feel like I want to be serving 100% of the time. I would miss my family. I could spend a lot more time serving and going out and helping people. I'm 61 years old, so I've got a few good years left. I feel like I'm in good shape for a 61-year-old. But if I could travel around and help with FEMA and be over in Africa for long periods of time and helping people, that's where I feel like I'm making a difference. And to do something like that, though, you have to have the support and the money. So
Sure.
that's the thing getting in the way. So I'm wrestling with that right now, Skip, as do I, and I've just recently lost a job due to the economy. So, it's easy to hear people complain about the economy when it's not affecting you, but the economy cost me a very good job and a car. So I'm trying to figure out what's next right now. Spiritually, I feel like I'm supposed to do more to help the kingdom, to help people, and I'm trying to figure out what that looks like right now.
Sure. I tell you, that's what I was kind of alluding to, like people, just because, you go do things, not everything happens the way you think they should happen. But at the end of the day, I tell people I usually run my life from a rearview mirror. I don't understand it at the time, but later on down the line, when I looked in that rearview mirror, oh, that's why that happened. That's why I'm here. So that's, can you relate with any of that?
You mentioned earlier what people that may not believe or may not have experienced certain things,
Sure.
people that have come to know God have had all kinds of different relationships and experiences and stuff like that. I've seen things in Africa that if I told people over here, they would think I was nuts. They would say that doesn't happen. Oh, that never happened, or that's the Old Testament kind of stuff, or whatever. I'm sure you've seen things, and as a fireman and stuff, that people just wouldn't believe if they just weren't there. So there's a peace, though, right now, even though I'm not where I want to be. Gratitude is something that I've strived for also, to be grateful for what I do have. I still have a lot. If the bank comes and gets my house tomorrow, I'll be okay. I'll figure it out, is where I am. There, I'm not overwhelmed. I'm not anxious about that. And I've had not only my spiritual life, but I've had people like you that I've been able to process that with. I've had good mentors in my life that have helped me through that kind of stuff. And I would tell anybody that's not truly given God a chance to start reading your Bible, start processing through that. You read in there sometimes Jesus performed a miracle and healed somebody immediately. Sometimes people spent 40 years out in the wilderness. It doesn't always happen overnight. It isn't always perfect. I don't know that those children, those orphans in Africa, will ever have a great life. But someday, if I'm looking at the back of their heads in heaven, I'll be happy.
Well, Warren, I like your servant's heart, and even when you're going through trials and tribulations, you're still got this attitude of hope. And I think that's what a lot of first responders, they've been through the years been in battle, so-called, but they weather the storm.
Yeah.
And right now, man, there's somebody out there, whether it's a first responder, a police, fire, that's been on a bad call, a bad fire, or a military was serving the country and he's seen a lot of things, or he lost a limb, or somebody that's lost their job, that has no hope, that don't see how it's going to get any better. You got 30 seconds. What are you going to say to them?
Well, I'm going to tell them find somebody that they can talk to. I've learned that Jesus is the answer, and that's easy to say, but I would tell them to find somebody that will listen to them, that will pour into them, that will be there. And sometimes that's hard to find, but look for somebody that they can be transparent with and they can trust, and move forward and heal.
Cool. All right. I always ask this too. When you're going through your, people go through certain things and they got a quote, a verse, or a song that resonates in their mind when times are hard, that keeps them pushing forward. Do you got any quote, verse, or special saying that resonates in your mind?
There are a lot of them. James 1:27, to care for the orphan and widow. That one is obviously important to me because that's what I do. And I consider somebody that doesn't know God or Jesus fatherless. They don't know the true Father. So I want to pour in to that kind of person. But I can't sing a lick, couldn't carry a tune in a bucket, but music has always spoken to me. Right now there's a song called Made Away. And I believe it's Elevation Worship. I'm not sure who it is, but I know God's going to make a way in my life, Skip. And for people out there that are listening that may be struggling or whatever, you'll get through this. Just find somebody that you can talk to that'll be there for you, and you can make it through.
Cool. Well, Warren, thank you very much. I'd like to thank everybody. We wanted to do something a little bit different on here because there's all kinds of people, all kinds of first responders. And I know we got our little thing with fire, police, and military and emergency room staff, but there's other first responders that serves the world that's needed, that don't have the firemen, like Warren said, to come rescue them, that don't have the police, the proper police officers to protect them. So just remember, if you need help, go to the burnoutnetwork.org, the burnoutnetwork.org. Send us an email. We can get you in touch with Warren if you want to have a more conversation with Warren. And if you want to support Warren, where can they support your mission at? Do you have that on your bio, or do you have that? Can you tell the people real quick?
Well, Horizon International, and I apologize for not having that ready, but we work through Horizon International. So,
hey, just check the bio out. It'll be on the bio at the bottom of the podcast. But everybody, just remember, Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, go on the burnoutnetwork.org, and there's a support meeting. Also, the worldwide peersupport.org on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, 8 p.m. Eastern. There's a support meeting there. And just remember, when you go home tonight, shut your radio off, shut your phone off, and get some sleep. Thank you.